Hey guys, welcome to the Paint with Lovejoy website. This is the place for first-time and beginners to get comfortable with the painting process. If you have never painted, I am definitely the teacher for you. I will give you permission to play, to create with your hands, and I do consider this adult kindergarten, where you get to make memories with yourself or with loved ones. And you will notice that creative time is something that you will reference for the rest of your life. I do encourage you to send me photos of your paintings. And when you're done with my YouTube videos, please check out my Paint Your Pet course for even more in-depth and kind of my signature class. It's a lot of fun. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for being you. And I also want to give you permission to play today. I'm going to encourage that you take a lot of progress photos, and I do recommend that you turn off your distractions. Put your phone on mute. Please know that mistakes will happen. We call them happy accidents. And I'm going to encourage you to breathe throughout the painting process. Here are your recommended supplies and the colors for this particular video. This video also has a traceable, a line drawing at the beginning, and you can either purchase the traceable and transfer, or you could pause the video and draw it freehand, whichever you feel comfortable doing. Again, progress photos are important, and I'm going to encourage that you pause and play the video as much as you need and rewatch anything that you want. Now let's go ahead and get started painting.
All right, guys, it's gonna be a fun painting, so grab your progress photo, and we're gonna start in the background. And this is an impressionistic style painting. So we're not going for perfect and we're not going for exact details. We're just going for an impression of what this landscape would look like. So hopefully that gives you a little permission to just kind of have fun. So we're going to start with a white and yellow color combo. Start with the white, add a little bit of yellow, and we're going to do kind of some abstract shapes here in the sky. You are more than welcome to pause the video and kind of mimic what you see me doing, or you can kind of go in your own direction. I do recommend that you apply your paint a little bit thicker. That way it's going to be easier when we blend, when we introduce our next couple of colors. And you also want to apply your paint thick enough so that way you're covering the texture of the canvas. So again, this is a nice little sunset. We're getting our beginning kind of light yellow white color in there, and we'll be moving to some yellow and then some pinks and some blues. There we go. So now we're going to move into some pink. So I just added a little bit more white to my yellow mixture and then adding a tiny amount of red. It might be a bit of an orangish pink or it might be a bit of a light pink. You can adjust the color to what you like. And I am using a medium flat brush here. I am going back to those shapes that I placed earlier with the yellow and white and just kind of going around it and also overlapping some of the spaces. Again, trust your instincts here. You do not have to copy what you see on the screen exactly. Just use this as a bit of reference. Now here I'm adding a little bit of white to my pink mixture to go a little bit lighter. And as we go through this video and this particular series, I want you to play with subtle color mixing. And what you saw there where I have the darker pink and the lighter pink next to it, that's what I call perimeter mixing. So feel free to play with that for this video. And again, you don't have to match what I'm doing on screen exact. Just use it as a guideline. Now, if you are one of my first time and beginner painters, remember to breathe. You might be a little bit nervous right now, so laugh at yourself a little bit, exhale, and just know the fact that you showed up and you're going through the process right now, you're already successful. So play with your shades of your pinks and your yellows, and you can overlap the pink into the yellow and create a new color. Again, you're here to play. And then we'll be moving into some light blue color next, filling in the rest of our sky. So you're doing great. I'm really proud of you for taking time out of your day to get creative with me and just have fun. So here we're moving into our light blue. So that's white with a little bit of blue. I'm going to go pretty light. If yours is a little different color, that's okay. We are going to use this color to fill in kind of the remaining space of the sky, and then we'll go with a little bit darker blue. Now, it is okay if you have to mix your color a second or third time. Don't stress about getting the exact same shade every time. It is to your benefit to have variety. And again, like I said earlier, you do not have to match what you see on the video exactly. Here I'm doing a little bit of perimeter mixing where I added a little bit more blue to the edge of the light blue. And that just kind of helps you keep your original color and then also do a little what we call a color shift. Again, just stuff I want you to play with. And the more and more that you paint, the more comfortable you get with the process and the more comfortable you get with your tools and color mixing. So again, using that slightly darker blue, again, adjust if you need to, filling in the space um, for our sky. You're doing a great. All right, so again, feel free to play with color variations. You want to overlap your colors, play with your brush pressure, and where the colors overlap, you may be introducing or making a new color. So just play with that. Um, and again, like I said earlier, trust your instincts. If you're inclined to go, ooh, let's go darker blue or darker pink here, go ahead and go for that. Full permission to trust your internal gut intuition. Again, overlapping some of the prior shades. And if you need to, you can go back to the shades of yellow and pink and kind of play with that. So you want to do everything that you want to your background now while the paint is wet, makes it easier to blend, and then we'll move on to the next section. So if you need to, pause the video, do everything that you need, and then pick up the video when you're ready for the next section. I want you to play with your blending, play with your brush pressure, um, look at your painting every now and then from a distance, take an extra progress photo. Here I'm actually going in with kind of just a damp brush, no pigment on it, no paint on it, and just going back and softening the transition or the space in between the shades. And then here choosing to go back with a little bit more of my pink. And I had enough made from prior, but if you need to make your shade of pink or your particular color again, just make it again. It does not have to be exact. And really in our sky background, we are using what we call our primary colors, red, yellow, and blue mixed with white. And these are our basic colors. So it's kind of nice. I like throwing that in there in these tutorials. Then we'll get into some other colors in the landscape area. So again, play with this section, get your sky to the way you want it, um, and then we'll move on to the next section. So here I'm going in with a little bit red and yellow. It's going to be a bit of a kind of an orangish pink, and going back and intensifying and popping out some of the pinker shades in here. And I'm painting right on top of what I did earlier. Some of my paint is still wet, so I'm able to do some blending. If your background at this point is already dry and you're introducing this new color on top of it, just kind of embrace the way the mark making is happening. And if you can't blend because your background's dry already, just embrace that process right now. The next time that you paint, maybe paint a little bit faster so that way the paint stays wet a little bit longer and you can go back and play. So here, going back in with the white, yellow, playing with all the shades. Again, just have fun. And each time that you paint, you're learning new things. And then when you paint again, some of those things that you've learned in your prior painting start showing up and making more sense. So basically, be kind to yourself. You're doing a great job. I'm glad you're hanging out with me for a little bit. And aside from staring at the monitor while we're going through the video, um, it's nice that you get to create something with your hands and not be fully on an electronic device. So take that progress photo. We're going to be moving into green and purple, starting to lay the first layer on our landscape. And we are going for kind of our darker shades first. This is a green and purple mixture, probably a little heavier on the purple side. And feel free again, pause the video, just notice the place and the abstract shape that I make, and just mimic that to the best of your ability, but it does not have to be perfect. Here I'm grabbing that more of the direct green, slapping it on there and just kind of filling in the space. Same with the background, the sky, overlapping some of those other brighter shades. I am using student grade paint. So we are doing 2 layers because it's student grade paint. So this is our first basic layer, and then we will do another layer on top of it. And by doing multiple layers, it helps increase the opacity and it gives a little bit better coverage. For like right now, you can see all my brush strokes that are showing up. When we put the second layer on there, not as obvious. So right now we're just getting our underpainting, our first layers on there, and then we'll build on top of that. All right, so clean your brush really good. I'm still using flat brushes. You can use a large one or a medium one. Feel free to adjust. Take your progress photo, and we're going to move in with some green and blue mixture now. By adding the blue or the purple to the green mixture, we're slightly changing the shade, but still staying in the green family. Again, just notice where I'm placing this particular color and the abstract shape that I'm making and just come close to it on your canvas. Again, like I said earlier, trust your instincts, full permission to kind of go do your own thing. Please send me photos, whether you kind of recreate what I'm doing or you do your own thing. Please send me photos. I love seeing those. They make my day every time I open up the emails. So again, just kind of getting that middle ground space. Now I grab some of that direct green, filling in the remaining space, and then we'll do a little bit of gray on our mountain. Again, overlapping the prior color, filling in all that canvas space. I'm kind of using medium pressure here just to kind of get the coverage, and that second layer will give us a bit more of a cleaner look. You're doing great. Remember to breathe. Um, just enjoy the process. It's very therapeutic, just the act of moving paint on canvas. All right, so clean that brush, take a progress photo. I am moving down to a slightly smaller brush, but I'm still using the flat brush um, and making a light gray. So I pulled some of that white aside, added a tiny amount of black and a tiny amount of blue. So making kind of a slight bluish light gray. Again, if your color is a little bit different than mine, totally okay. If you want to put a purple mountain back there, by all means, go for it. I think purple mountains are really beautiful. But again, full permission to switch colors. So we're taking our light blue gray, filling in the remaining portion of that mountain. Again, applying your paint a little bit thicker to give good coverage, and then we'll put some details on top of this. If you have to make your shade of blue-gray a second time, again, don't stress about getting the exact color match. All right, here adding a touch more white and black. I'm going to be making my color again. So again, if you have to make your color, does not have to be exactly matching to your prior. Color variation is something fun to play with and it adds more intrigue to your canvas. If you happen to get an exact color match, pat yourself on the back, be proud of yourself, and keep on painting. Painting's not about being perfect, but it's about learning to look at your world from a new perspective and to get a little bit more comfortable with the tools. So perfection is overrated because your idea and concept of perfect will change the more that you learn. So we're just hanging out in the moment, being creative, and having a good time. I do consider this adult kindergarten uh, for my adults that paint with me, and then just fun for any of the kids that paint with me. I do want you to notice how you feel after you paint. Maybe you're a little more relaxed, maybe you're a little more calm, and that is the beauty and the reason why I teach painting. So now we're going a little bit darker, so adding more blue and a little bit more black, going about 2 shades darker, 2 to 3 shades darker than what you were just using. I have moved down to the small pointy brush, and we're going to start putting some shadows on our mountain here. Again, pause the video, observe the shape and the placement that I put this, and if you need to, Pause the video, take a screenshot, and then you can zoom in closer if you need to see more of the details. But keep in mind that this is an impressionistic painting. It's just an impression. We're not going for every single detail. And because it's just an impression, it may look kind of weird up close while you're painting it. But when you actually look at your painting from across the room about 5 to 10 feet away, you're like, oh, that looks like a pretty good landscape. So get in that habit as while you're painting to look at it from a distance. Or when you take your progress photo, look at your painting on your phone and assess it that way, and then go back to painting. Don't be upset if you like your painting more on your phone or from a distance than you do in front of 2 feet in front of you while you're painting it. Uh, right now we're moving into blue and purple mixture, still with the small flat brush. And we're going in with some darker shades and breaking up the space. So all I want you to do is strengthen your power of observation and pause the video, observe the place and the shape that I make, and mimic that to the best of your ability. Like I was saying earlier, looking at your painting from a distance is a huge help, especially with impressionistic style painting. Right now, up close, you're just like, these are just blobs of color next to each other. But then when you start stepping back, it's actually called the Monet effect. As you step away from the canvas, your eye starts to visually blend those colors together and you see something different from 10 feet away compared to 2 feet away. So incorporating that into your creativity just helps your progress. With that being said, go ahead and take your progress photo, and then we're going to be moving into black and green. So again, getting a little bit more of a sharper and darker colors towards the front, what we call the foreground, which would be closer to the bottom half of your canvas. And it's this little hill that's here. So we're getting the dark shades on there, again, just to kind of break up some of the space and give depth. Now, as you paint, you are actually a magician. You're creating an illusion of a 3D image on a flat 2D surface. So that's why we throw in the shadow, midtones, and highlight values to create that illusion. You're doing great. All right, so take your progress photo. We're gonna let this dry for about 10 or 15 minutes and then put our next layers on top of it. And I'm gonna talk about my favorite class, the Paint Your Pet class, and then we'll pick up the painting for this little ad. So definitely check out my Paint Your Pet class. It's great to learn to paint something that you love, and we all love our pets. If you've never painted before, I am a perfect teacher to help you. And please check out all these awesome smiles from my students and their wonderful portraits. It just makes me so happy to have this many people come through my class. I do offer this class as an in-person workshop and available online. Both in person and online are very easy and logical steps to follow. And you can paint your pet or favorite animal. No humans, though, just animals. So, again, check out these great smiles. I love what I do. This is so much fun, and pet people are the best people to paint with. So, the classes are a lot of fun. You will impress your pet and yourself. And check out the Paint Your Pet course and that discount code and continue your creative evolution. Now let's get back into your current painting. I do want you to look at it from across the room and even notice how you feel. We're going to be adding our second layer on here, and it's going to be kind of nice because it's going to give us more opaque and just more details. So I'm using the pointy brush and white paint right now, and we're going to get kind of the snow caps or the snow melt or snow on the top of this mountain. So with the pointy brush, I'm just kind of making a couple little dots next to each other, again, creating a bit of an abstract shape. So feel free to pause the video, take a screenshot, and zoom in if you want to see a little bit closer these weird shapes that I'm making. But all I want you to do is mimic it to the best of your ability at home. If you do not want snow on your mountain, you can skip this step entirely. Nice. So you can add as much or as little snow as you want. I'm going to be adding more here kind of on the edge and left-hand side. I appreciate looking at snow from a distance, but I'm not a huge fan of hanging out in it. So I will paint a lot of snow on the distant mountain um, in hopes that people that enjoy the snow and the skiing are enjoying it up there. So again, add as much or as little snow as you want. And these are just pointy brushed, kind of little dots. And again, as you step away from your canvas and look at it from a distance, you're just like, yeah, obviously that is a snow-capped mountain in the distance. So you're doing great. All right, feel free to pause the video to observe the shapes that you see. And as you do this, you are strengthening your power of observation. And this is actually a great life skill to strengthen. The more observant you are in your daily life, the more things that you notice, the more compliments you can give people, and hopefully the more that you appreciate things in your life. And painting's really good at that for helping to strengthen your power of observation. So take your progress photo. We're going to start moving more into the foreground, do everything you want to your mountain. We're not going to come back to that after this step. So still using the pointy brush, we're going back to the green and black paint. Again, just kind of creating some abstract shapes, bringing a little bit more clarity and detail and contrast to our landscape, to our impressionistic landscape. So again, with this green and black mixture, just notice the blobs or the abstract places that I put them, or the abstract shapes that I make when I put them on there, and just kind of come close to that on your canvas. Like I said earlier in the video, if you're inclined to put a shadow somewhere I do not, go ahead, trust that instinct in yourself and go ahead and put that paint there. I do recommend that you actually paint these paintings once or twice or even 3 times or more. Um, and it's nice to kind of do the same painting multiple times because then that way you can see how much you have learned um, from each painting. All right, doing good. And if you need to, as you're making bigger spaces, if you want to jump up to the bigger brush, feel free to switch back and forth for brushes that you need. Here I needed more green paint, so reload your paint as needed. I did not edit that out. Um, and here I'm going back to the pointy brush, but like I said earlier, if you need a bigger brush or something different, adjust for what you need. So here we're using the direct green, and again, just kind of applying these abstract shapes. And even if you notice that maybe you use one brush and you're like, yeah, I want to go back and use the bigger brush, feel free to switch. Like I said, take most of what I say in class kind of lightly and just have fun. This is not an exact science or formula. This is just to have fun. So now we're going to move into the green and yellow mixture. Start with the yellow, add the green. Your shade of yellow-green will probably be different than mine. That's okay. But we're going for kind of a lighter color here. And this is also our second layer on the hill. So we'll have a little bit more opaque coverage after these couple of colors. It is okay to overlap some of the prior shades. And I do realize there's a little bit of a glare from my camera light that makes it a little bit hard to see, so I apologize about that. Here I grabbed some of the direct yellow and literally just slapped it on in a few areas. It is mixing a little bit with the green that's already on my canvas, and then I did just grab some green um, to kind of mix in with it and tone down some of that yellow a little bit. This is a great place to play, and you will notice that your dark or your lighter colors do get eaten up by the darker colors pretty quickly. So with the yellow, sometimes being a little more heavy-handed with that application compared to your darker colors. And this is again something that just gets more comfortable the more that you paint. So there you can see I grabbed some of the direct yellow, but within 2 or 3 brush stroke movements, it diffused into the green that was already there. Again, this is not about being perfect. You're just getting comfortable with this impressionistic style of a landscape. So take your progress photo. We're going to keep moving on. You're doing great. Hopefully you're a little more relaxed during the painting process than you would be at work or somewhere else. And here we're going to be grabbing green and purple and a little bit of blue. Again, kind of going dark. And by adding the blue and the purple, this is cooling down our green as well as making it a little bit darker. And for that middle section, um, it just kind of helps go a little bit darker as we push further back into the landscape. And when I say foreground, middle ground, background, the sky and the mountain would be considered our background. This middle section that we're working on right now with the green, blue, and black, that would be our middle ground. And then the hill in the front that we'll be putting the flowers on, that's considered our foreground. So no pop quiz for any of that, but just a little bit more kind of creative information. And still with that blue, green, purple mixture, you can see here where with that final application, I have a nice distinction between all three sections. So take your progress photo. If you want to let this dry a little bit, you can, or just keep on going with the video. Excuse me. So now, again, if you wanted to let this dry, that does help, but we're using pointy brush, black and green paint, and we're going to be putting some tree silhouettes in here. So I want you to play with light pressure. We're going to put the tree trunk in first, and that's where that first line is. Um, and again, we're just going for light pressure. So take your time on this. It's not a race. Um, but we're going to put the tree trunk in first, and then we'll start at the top with just tiny little dots. And I do recommend taking your time and pausing the video, zoom in a little bit closer to see just kind of these tree shapes that I make. And imagine that each dot is kind of like a leaf or um, foliage on your tree. And I am kind of keeping some distinction in between my branches to give it a bit more of that tree shape. But you can fill in your tree a little bit more than I'm filling mine in. And with the trees, imagine that they're, the tops of the tree is usually where I like to start because that's going to be the skinniest portion. And then as I move down from the top, then the branches get wider. Maybe the branches start overlapping a little bit more. And it is going to feel kind of weird because right now you're like, that doesn't really look like a tree. Keep going, fill in your entire tree, um, and then look at it from a distance. And if you're finding that your brush is kind of shaky, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, and that's going to steady out your hand. Again, this is an impressionistic painting, so we're not doing exact details or going photorealistic for this tree. It's just an impression of a tree. And when we are done and we look at it from a distance, then you go, oh yeah, that definitely looks like a tree. But right now, it may not quite look like a tree in your mind's eye. So be kind to yourself. Keep on going with the process. Trust the process. And again, also know that sometimes you don't get it exactly right on your first try, but it gets better on the second, third, and fourth try. So we're going to add another tree on the other side. If you do not want to add another tree, you do not have to. If you want to add more trees than I have in here, just keep recreating the formula for as many trees as you'd like. So again, still pointing brush, putting the base tree trunk in there, that vertical line, and then starting at the top, just making little dots, starting really skinny at the top, and then widening out those branches as we get towards the bottom of the line. Trees come in many shapes, sizes, and variations. A lot of times, I tell my students it's okay for your tree to have personality. It's okay for your tree to dance in the wind. However, your tree turns out, come up with a story. Maybe there's a storm happening. Maybe there's a super windy day. But come up with a story for maybe why your tree looks the way that it looks. And that makes it a little bit easier. And then the next time that you paint the tree, you'll take in these lessons and go, well, I'm going to shape it a little differently. I'm going to make this kind of tree. So again, not about being perfect, but just expressing yourself and learning something and then building on that the next time that you do it. Remember to breathe. And again, not a race. Take your time. If you need to pause the video and go do something, go eat something, and then come back to this. completely okay. And that's the beauty of being able to be creative at your house or in your own space. You can take your time. Please make sure that if you do take a break, please come back to the painting. Don't just walk away and never finish this painting. There is something to be said about finishing a painting, even if you don't like it. Still, knowing that you started and completed a painting gives you more empowerment to go do it again. And I highly recommend that you find regular creative outlets in your life. Um, it's one of the reasons why I created the YouTube channel is to give you guys this opportunity to just get creative, take the stress out of it, and have fun. Notice how you feel after you're done painting. Hopefully, while you're painting, you've forgotten about your work, your family, any other drama or things going on, and you've been so focused on the painting that that's all you've looked at. So if you need to, you can go back to the other tree, reshape it. You can go back and forth. Just because you may have finished one section does not mean that you can never go back to it. So again, play with this, have fun. Permission to be an adult kindergartner. For both of these trees, I am bringing the bottom of the tree up to the edge of that curve, that first hill that's in the front. If you happen to go beyond it, that's okay. Your tree's just growing from a different place. So take your progress photo. We are going to start moving into flowers. So I am moving back up to the medium flat brush. And for our flowers, these are literally blobs. We're going to make blobs of color, and then from a distance, they look like flowers. So I'm starting with a light, light, light purple, and that is white with a tiny amount of purple. So if you want to make yours a little bit darker purple, feel free to go right ahead and do that. You can also switch and do red or any color that you want for these flowers. And I am using the medium flat brush and literally just making dots. When I teach my in-person workshops, I do like to call these blobs. Everybody can paint a blob, and a blob looks like a flower from a distance. So if you're nervous about this part, just repeat in your head, I'm painting a blob, and a blob is a flower. And again, you'll impress yourself when you look at it from a distance. All right, so again, you can reference the general place that I'm putting these, or you can be a little more controlled and specific on where you want to place your flowers. But this has come together nicely. We have good distinction between all of our background, foreground, and middle ground. And we've got a nice impressionistic style here. So you should be very proud of yourself. And I do hope that you find regular creative outlets. I recommend my students to paint at least once a month. Bonus points if you can paint weekly. And the bonus points come in from just having a little bit more stress relief and just having an outlet from your normal routine. And then again, please send me photos of what you guys paint. I love seeing those. As we're painting these blobs, I do recommend applying these rather thick. It's okay to get rather excessive here because it's nice to have a little bit of the texture and kind of having to come off the canvas when you're painting a little bit thicker. If you are using student grade paint, some of this thickness may kind of flatten as it dries, but by painting it thicker, we have a little bit more opaque coverage, and these look more like solid flowers. Um, so just something to kind of think about as we're putting these layers on here. Another thing to think about is it's okay to have various size blob flower shapes because you want to think of some flowers are fully open, maybe some are still little buds that haven't opened. So having variety in your dots helps give natural variety of what we would see in nature. So now we're going to switch colors, still using the pointy brush. We're going to do a blue and purple mixture, going a little bit darker. Your call if you want more blue or more purple. You can make this kind of the shade that you want. And same thing, we're just painting little dots, little blobs. If you need to, I did use the medium brush to mix my paint and then going back and grabbing the pointy brush to apply it to the canvas. So totally okay if you want to do multiple brush applications like that. Now, because this purple blue is kind of dark, it may be a little hard to see, where you're placing this on top of the green. So it is okay to place it there. It's okay to even overlap some of the white blobs. It's okay to adjust your color, maybe after you've applied a few. Um, a lot of painting, like I said, is not about being perfect or an exact formula, but you are communicating with your canvas. And if you paint a color next to something and you're like, it's not standing out enough, you just adjust the color, adjust your application. All right, yeah, I do like it when it's mixed in with the white. It gives nice contrast. And thinking about how the flowers grow in the wild. Um, all the wildflowers, they're not in a row, they're not all collected together. A lot of times they intermingle, so feel free to do that and have your colors and your flower blobs all over this hill. Maybe it was a really good spring and lots of snow melt, and maybe it's a super bloom of all these flowers this year. Whatever story you want to add to your painting just makes it that much more intriguing. Nice. You guys are doing great. And if you need to throw in a progress photo in there, go right ahead and do that. And I recommend that you get in that habit of taking your progress photos anytime you get creative, because it's one of the few times that you're going to have a visual documentation of your learning curve. And tomorrow, when you flip through and look at your photos, you're going to be like, yeah, that was awesome. And tomorrow, when you're flipping through the photos, you get to do that in 30 seconds compared to maybe the hour or two that it took to paint it. So now we're going to move into some red and purple, getting a little bit more of a pop color in there and some contrast, but same application, just little blobs, little dots, wherever you feel content to put that. And I had some water drop on there, so I was just pulling that off before I went to apply my paint. There we go. And again, just a little collection of dots using the red and purple, and then we'll move into the direct red. Again, feel free to look at your painting from a distance. And when you're looking at it from a distance, as you're looking at it, go, oh, maybe I need a little color over here. Maybe I need this red flower over here. Trust that as you're looking at it from a distance, and then go back and apply what you were thinking about as you were looking at it. All right, coming together nicely. You're doing great. We are kind of in the home stretch. This is going to be the last section that we work on. So again, add whatever you want to it. I am going to put some blue flowers in there. And again, if you need to adjust your shade after you've put a few little dots in there, go right ahead and adjust. Nice. Hopefully you are noticing that you're a little more relaxed, a little more content, hopefully happy with yourself with what you painted. And again, that is the point of painting. All right, we're going to move back into that yellow-green mixture. Still using the pointy brush, being a little bit probably more heavy-handed on the green side. There we go. And going back to doing little dots on the tree, giving a little bit of a highlight with this lighter green. And I am kind of focusing on having on this side, having those little lighter dots on the left-hand side of the tree. And then adding a few more to kind of the full area of this tree on the left-hand side of the canvas. And again, by adding this light color, light earth color, it's just indicating where the light source is coming from. And it helps break up the space of those darker colors. Again, something else to look at from a distance and see how it's translating for you. And if you need to go back and add more bright yellow, go for it. So here, just adding a little bit of a highlight to the bottom of our hill, closer to the bottom of the canvas, and also filling in any spaces where the canvas might be showing through, or even that first layer of the hill um, that's still maybe a little more transparent. And again, these are just little dots, little blobs. They don't quite look like the flowers, but it gives still that impression that we have this kind of blocky color next to some of our flower blobs. And going a bit more intense now by grabbing some of the direct yellow and just putting a few more just bold highlights on there, applying the paint kind of thick. And then that'll be our last step for the day for this painting. So great job today. Feel free to put the yellow dots just kind of in places. This is where the highest highlight would be, the lightest color. And then take your progress photo. And great job for today. Thank you for taking time out of your day to get creative with me. Hopefully, you're a little more relaxed. And please don't wait too long to do your next painting. Send me photos or tag me on socials. I love seeing what you guys do. Definitely check out the Paint Your Pet course when you're ready to take your skills to the next level. And again, thanks so much for painting with me. Until next time, cheers.